In 2008, a game forced players to dismember their enemies limb by limb just to survive. No headshots, no mercy, just strategic mutilation. 17 years later, Dead Space remains the gold standard of survival horror. So terrifying that its 2023 remake proved the nightmare still works. This is why Dead Space changed horror games forever. Dead Space was a massive risk. In 2008, EA Redwood Shores, later renamed Visceral Games, pitched a new intellectual property in a market dominated by established franchises. Director Glenn Schilefield had one goal: create the most terrifying game imaginable. The team drew inspiration from two sources. First, Resident Evil 4's commercial success proved action horror could work. Second, System Shock's to sci-fi atmosphere showed how isolation in space amplifies dread. They combined both, added inspiration from films like Event Horizon and Solaris, and built something entirely new. But the real innovation was strategic dismemberment. Traditional shooters trained players to aim for headshots. Dead Space flipped that completely. Shoot a necromorph in the head and it doesn't die, it gets enraged and charges faster. The only way to stop them is severing their limbs. This wasn't just a gimmick, the entire game was built around this mechanic. Enemy AI and weapon accuracy and automation systems, all built to support limb-based combat. Technically, this was incredibly difficult for 2008 hardware. When you sever a limb, it doesn't disappear, it becomes a physics object you can pick up and throw back at enemies. One sequence where Isaac gets dragged by Digital Star production for an entire month. The team had to completely rethink mechanics and animation. They adopted a layered production approach, finishing one section at a time to isolate problems. Some content was cut entirely to make room for these ambitious sequences. The gamble paid off. Dead Space launched to critical acclaim and proved horror games could innovate beyond jump scares. The USG Ishimura isn't just a setting, it's a character. The planet-cracking mining vessel transformed into a haunted house in space. Dead Space's atmosphere comes from sound design that breaks every rule. Composer Jason Graves avoided traditional music entirely. Instead, he created involving textures using analog synths and in-house Foley recording. The result is a constant unease, creaks and distant screams, whispers, and unpredicted noises that keep you on edge. The genius is what you don't hear. In space, traditional horror music would feel wrong. The Ishimura's ambient sounds, the hum of machinery, and the groan of metal, these become the soundtrack. Your footsteps echo, vents rattle, something moves in the darkness, and you can't tell if it's real or the ship settling. Then there's a UI integration. Most games pause action to show health bars or menus. Dead Space keeps you in the experience. Isaac's health bar is a holographic display on his spine. His oxygen counter appears on his back. Inventory opens as a hologram in front of him while the game continues in real time. Enemies can attack while you're managing items. This Diegetic design keeps immersion unbroken. Zero gravity sequences amplify the isolation. Floating through debris fields with limited oxygen. Necromorphs attacking from any direction. No up or down, just survival. These sections were technically challenging but essential to the space horror experience. The Ishimura's design tells a story without words. Bloodstained walls, scattered logs, bodies positioned to suggest final moments. Environmental storytelling reveals the crew's descent into madness before you arrived. You're not fighting an invasion, you're walking through the aftermath of a massacre. Lighting plays a critical role. The game uses darkness strategically, not constantly. Well-lit areas create false security before plunging you into a shadow. Your flashlight becomes a lifeline, but it also limits vision, forcing you to choose what to illuminate. The 2023 remake enhanced these elements with modern technology, improved lighting, more detailed environments, seamless level transitions without loading screens, but the core atmosphere remained unchanged because the original design was already perfect. Dead Space understands horror psychology better than most games. It's not about a constant jump scare, it's about sustained dread punctuated by violence. Resource scarcity creates tension, ammunition is limited, health packs are rare, every shot matters. You can't spray bullets hoping to hit something. Strategic dismemberment forces precision under pressure. Miss a limb and you've wasted ammo you desperately needed later. The necromorph design is brilliant. These aren't zombies, they're reanimated corpses transformed by alien infection, limbs twisted into weapons, bodies contorted into nightmares. Each type requires different tactics. Slashers need limbs severed, exploders must be shot from distance. Pregnant necromorphs release swarms when killed. You're constantly adapting strategy. Playing dead enemies is a mechanic that amplifies paranoia. Bodies litter the environment, most are corpses. Some are necromorphs waiting to ambush. You learn to shoot every body just to be safe, wasting precious ammo on corpses, or you risk walking past a threat. The game weaponizes your uncertainty. Elevator sequences become iconic. You're trapped in a small place, doors close, going up or down, and necromorphs attack from vents. Nowhere to run, limited space to maneuver, pure claustrophobic terror. Players remember these moments years later. Isaac Clarke, as the silent protagonist, was intentional. In the original Dead Space, Isaac never speaks. You project yourself onto him. His breathing, his movements, his panic, that's you. The sequels gave him a voice and personality, which some players felt reduced immersion. The 2023 remake added voice acting, dividing fans on whether silence or speech works better. The twist ending recontextualizes everything. Without spoiling for those who haven't played, the final revelation about Nicole and the marker changes your understanding of Isaac's journey. It's not just survival horror, it's psychological horror. Isaac's mental state becomes as important as physical threats. Dead Space's influence on horror games is undeniable. Strategic Dismemberment became a template. The Castillo Protocol, directed by Dead Space creator Glenn Schofield, attempted to recapture that formula in 2022. While it had stunning visuals, critics felt like it lacked Dead Space's innovation, proving you can't just copy mechanics without understanding the psychology behind them. The sequels expanded the universe but lost focus. Dead Space 2 added action and spectacle, moving away from isolation. Dead Space 3 introduced co-op multiplayer and microtransactions, alienating fans who wanted pure survival horror. Visceral Games was shut down by EA in 2017, seemingly ending the franchise. Then the 2023 remake happened. Developed by Moto Studio, it proved the original design still works, enhanced graphics, improved sound, and seamless level design, but the core experience remained faithful. It sold over 2 million copies in the first month, demonstrating demand for classic survival horror. What makes Dead Space endure its commitment to atmosphere over action? Modern horror games often prioritize combat and multiplayer. Dead Space reminds us that isolation, resource scarcity, and environmental storytelling create deeper fear than any jump scare. The game's influence extends beyond mechanics. It showed AAA studios that horror can be profitable. It proved sci-fi horror works in games, not just films. It demonstrated that innovation in gameplay systems can define a genre. 17 years later, Dead Space remains essential, not because it invented horror games, but because it perfected the formula. Strategic dismemberment, Diegetic UI, and sound design, and environmental storytelling. These elements combine into an experience that still terrifies new players today. Dead Space changed survival horror by understanding one truth. Terror comes from vulnerability, not power. When every bullet counts, when every corner hides potential death, when the environment itself feels hostile, that's when the horror works. The 2023 remake's success proves this formula is timeless. New generations of players are discovering why Dead Space terrified us in 2008 and why it still does today. If you haven't played Dead Space, you're missing the gold standard of space horror. If you have, the remake offers the perfect excuse to experience it again with modern enhancements. What's your most terrifying Dead Space moment? Let me know down in the comments below. Subscribe if y'all want more. I'll see y'all later. Stay safe out there. Bye bye.